Thank you, Ambassador Tai, for your service and for being here today. Ambassador Tai, I wanted to talk about a subject that I think has received less attention than it should have, and that is the Uyghur population in China. The GDP of Xinjiang is about $260 billion, roughly the size of New Zealand's economy. The region produces about 90% of China's cotton and over 20% of the world's cotton. About 20% of all cotton clothes on American store shelves have fiber from Xinjiang. Almost half the world's polysilicon comes from this region, which is one more reason we have to strengthen our domestic solar manufacturing. And I for one, am very pleased that this administration is the first one, really, since Ronald Reagan was president, and outsourced everything to Southeast Asia to start bringing something back to the United States. All of this, these consumer products and solar products are happening on the backs of over 1 million Uyghurs who are imprisoned in forced labor camps. There are numerous reports of torture, of sterilization, of people being placed under 24/7 surveillance with every move and every utterance monitored by the CCP, including in their own homes. That's what's happening in Xinjiang, and there are still many American companies who are operating in the region. I recognize that we passed the Uyghur Force Protection Prevention Act, which is now law, but I remain concerned about American businesses and other multinational companies with supply chains that run through the region. So, Ambassador Tai, I'd ask you to tell us what you would say to American companies that continue to operate in China or elsewhere with supply chain exposure to the Uyghur region, and what do you say to our global allies and partners about the importance of not enabling the Chinese government's systemic oppression of the Uyghur people?
Thank you for your question, Senator Bennet. We have had a lot of conversations with American businesses about this, and I appreciate that for a long time we did not pay attention to where our supply chains went and how the supply was being produced. But today in 2023, given all the challenges that our world economy is facing, these are critical questions we have to ask, especially when it comes to building in a world economy that is not premised on the exploitation of our fellow human beings. In conversations with business, I understand and appreciate that they may not know, and often that they do not know, how far their supply chains go or what the answers are in terms of who is producing and under what conditions. But the issue is that they have the responsibility to know. And in terms of working with our trading partners, eliminating forced labor from global supply chains is something that we cannot do alone. It is something that we must all work together to do. I have been getting very good cooperation and collaboration with the European Union, Japan, Canada, as well as Mexico. We are galvanizing efforts to make progress in this area. We have the UFLPA. A lot of our partners are working on due diligence legislation exactly to put the burden on their businesses to know who is in their supply chain and how their supply is being produced.
Well, I would encourage you to continue that work to galvanize that effort, and I'll turn with the remaining moment that I have to other work that you're doing in the name of regionalization, which you talked about earlier today. I'm deeply concerned about China's growing influence across Latin America and the Caribbean. China is South America's top trading partner. It's South America's top trading partner and a major source of both foreign direct investment and lending in energy and infrastructure, including through the Belt and Road Initiative. Last year, during this hearing, I asked you about the opportunities you saw with our own trade policy to improve relations with key economies in the Western Hemisphere. And since then, the Biden administration announced the America's Partnership for Economic Prosperity back in June, and you held its first ministerial, I think, this past January. How can our trade policies help us either reshore or ally shore critical supply chains away from China, especially those that run through the Uyghur region, but others as well that may have for the last 30 years or so felt that that was the right place, but now maybe have the opportunity here? Can you talk about specific opportunities that you are targeting with our allies and partners across the Western Hemisphere and in this region, about what some of the opportunities are and some of the obstacles you're facing. And I am out of time, but I'll bet you the chairman will give you 30 seconds to answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you both. Yes, the Americas Partnership is an engagement that we at USTR are partnering with state on, precisely to bring an economic engagement to our own neighborhood that is regionally based. In the Latin America region and in the Western Hemisphere, we actually have the most existing FTAs that we have in any region here. So you will see that of the 11 partners included, that's us and 10 other partners. With 8 of them, we already have FTAs, and but that's not a limiting factor in participating in the Americas Partnership. We have 2 with whom we do not have an existing FTA. I've looked at the trade statistics. I know what you're talking about. Our partners in our own neighborhood nevertheless tell me that we are their most important trading partner. And the task for us is to work with those partners, but also to work with Congress on enhancing those relationships and bringing that regional prosperity that we have been wanting for a very long time and continue to aspire to.